Welcome to Live and Local, a talk show discussing the people, activities, and organizations affecting the Iowa City area. I'm your host, Brian McConnell, and today we're joined by the Alzheimers Association of East Central Iowa. And with us today is April Holden and Angelica Vanntta. Both of you welcome. And if we could just start, if you could both tell a little bit about how you're involved and what you do there, and just how long you've been involved. So if you want to go ahead and start.
Okay. So I got involved with the organization when I moved here 4 years ago, and just started my first year. I just walked in the walk because my mother-in-law has Alzheimer's, and that's why we moved back to the area. And just trying to support her and get more involved in the cause. We walked as a family team, and then my second year I was part of the committee, and I've been the chairperson now for the past couple years.
Great.
So I am the chair of the walk here in town, and I've been also involved as an ambassador.
Okay. So are you originally from this area?
I'm from Iowa City originally, yep.
Oh,
and then
okay.
my husband and I have lived elsewhere for our professional lives, and then moved back specifically to try to be closer to my in-laws.
Sure.
Because of my husband's an only child, so for
Okay.
us it was pretty important to try and get back to be closer to them. They were living in Des Moines, so the first year we were living back here, I begged my in-laws to move closer to me, which I know is sort of a rare thing for people to say that they did, but I did, and they did move here a year after we moved here.
Okay.
And it's been really, really nice to have them close, especially as my mother-in-law's Alzheimer's has progressed. So that's my connection to the organization.
Okay. What about you, Angelica?
So my role with the Alzheimer's Association is the Director of Community Outreach. So it is a staff position. You know, I'm paid to raise awareness for Alzheimer's disease. I have worked in nonprofit organizations for about 8 years, and this opportunity came open, and I have friends who have family members who have Alzheimer's disease, and so it struck me as an organization that I wanted to get involved with. One thing that really stands out with the Alzheimer's Association is that we do a lot for the local community. We support the families that are directly affected by the disease. Some of the other nonprofit organizations, although everyone is great in their own way, I have felt didn't do quite as much for the individual who might be affected by X, Y, or Z. And so that's why I have stayed with my position here. I really appreciate it. I've really gotten to know a lot of our ambassadors. And although I don't have anyone in my family who has the disease, I really feel like the people the volunteers that I work with, are my family.
Sure.
And so their family is my family. So.
And how long have you been with them?
2 years.
Okay.
Yep, and so when I came on board, April was one of my rock star volunteers in Iowa City, and I was like, all right, tell me what we got going on. So she was really great.
So if you could explain what is an ambassador in this respect?
Well, basically, anything they need me to do, I do, like coming on your show.
Sure.
But I guess I'm really passionate about the disease because it affects our family so completely. So I just am someone that they can lean on. I've done everything from going to Washington, D.C. and talking with our politicians there to lobby for our cause. And of course, that means funding, awareness and funding, and going to Des Moines and trying to lobby our lawmakers there for the same reason. Alzheimer's is one of the top 10 leading cause of death nationwide. Last year's statistics, it was the 6th leading cause of death nationwide, and in Iowa it was actually the 5th.
Oh, wow.
So, it affects Iowans pretty greatly, not just, people nationally. So, with that, there's a lot of need, and then getting the outreach out there. So I'm one of the people they lean on to do that in many capacities. And then also the walk chair position obviously helps coordinate our walk. We do an annual walk every year in September. Our walk this year is September 21st, I believe. It's a Sunday. We do that just around Lower City Park, so it's a very easy walk. It's not a very long walk by any stretch of the imagination because there's a lot of people with Alzheimer's that walk with us. But it definitely, those are some of the things that I try to do to help raise awareness and funding. And last year we started doing a lot of tailgating to
Oh,
try
yeah.
and help raise awareness. So we
Fun.
went through,
It was fun.
It was actually
Yeah.
really fun.
Yeah.
I wrote my kids into it who are 4 and 7.
Okay.
And they were very good at helping us, and then going to like farmers market and having a little table out and trying to help raise awareness that way. So a lot of different things when you're in a position like this, obviously.
Yeah. So either or both of you, Angelica and April, can answer this if you'd like, but you hitting a little more directly because it affected an in-law and you working as the director.
Mm-hmm.
What was one of the first and biggest things you learned that maybe you were surprised about Alzheimer's?
Yeah, I mean, I think the biggest thing for me was that how much it truly affects everyone in the family. I mean, it's very stressful and sometimes heartbreaking and tiring, and I don't know, I guess I just didn't really think that. I think growing, when you hear about it, yeah, it's a big deal. But when you really see it and the families and how they mix and kind of deal with a person with the disease, it's really a lot more than just, hey, I have this thing. And I think with Alzheimer's, because we haven't yet found a cure either, there's some of that part of it too. So, I mean, certainly April can talk a little bit more about this, but I feel like sometimes, especially when you're first diagnosed, a loved one is first diagnosed, that they sometimes don't feel like they have a light at the end of the tunnel sometimes. So
Yeah.
that was the biggest thing that really just opened my eyes is, wow, this doesn't just affect this person, but it affects the whole family. And I've got older kids, and I'm kind of to that point in my life where it's like, okay, I'm really not all that far from kind of that age range. I'm like, okay, what would happen to my kids? How would my children be able to handle something like that? So I'd say that would be the biggest thing that really surprised me about the disease.
I think when I was younger, I thought that Alzheimer's was one of those diseases that you get when you're very old and you're already sort of decrepit already and already needing some form of care,
85 plus.
Right,
That's Alzheimer's.
right.
Yep.
And my mother-in-law was 64 when she was diagnosed. So that, her being very young and very healthy, has been very, very hard.
Yeah.
Great blood pressure, no heart problems, kidney function, lung function, like everything. She's very healthy, not on any medications, very active. Was a big volunteer. They lived in Ames. Big volunteer in her community, chairperson of several committees.
As long as it wasn't anything involved with Iowa State, that's fine.
It was very Iowa State centric.
Okay.
My father-in-law was a professor there.
Okay, we'll let that slide then.
Yeah, I just didn't need to bring that up. Thanks. So, she was just very vibrant and busy, and so going, seeing how it affected her at such a young age when they had so much more future together as a retired couple, that's been, really tragic to try to deal with that. And then at first, her being diagnosed, it was good because she just felt like she was going crazy.
I bet.
Not being able to remember, what's this called? This thing that you put water in? It's a cup. Yes, it was very frustrating for her that way. And the way she was diagnosed is a unique way, but she felt like she couldn't hear. So she kept going to different audiologists and having her hearing tested, and she finally went to Mayo, and they said, good news, you can hear great. Bad news is the comprehension, because you have early onset Alzheimer's. So for her, that was, again, a relief. And then because they were diagnosed at an early age, they could do some life planning. So it was very good for us to have that diagnosis so that they could get, an estate set up and do some of those things. But how quickly Alzheimer's has sort of, like plateaus, you sort of fall off, and then you kind of stabilize again, and then you fall off another cliff. So for them, different things have been manageable, and then all of a sudden, oh crap, now she's incontinent, or oh crap, now, she, has this weird habit where she's grinding her teeth, or things that you just can't really, they manifest so oddly. So that's been really hard to deal with then after the initial diagnosis that there's no treatment, there's no cure. So you just wait to fall off another cliff, and that's been really amazing to me that in this day and age, there's nothing we can do. Just nothing we can do besides deal with her the best we can at the time and then put her in a facility. But really, one of the scariest things that I learned when we were first researching the disease is that there are phases. As a typical adult, you can be pretty much on the phase 2 because we're all forgetful. And then, once you're consistently at that phase or higher, then you really do, where they can probably diagnose you. But when you get to the later phases, it's fatal. And I didn't realize that Alzheimer's was fatal.
And I was going to get to this later, but explain how Alzheimer's is fatal. That's something that I don't necessarily understand either.
Because you forget how to do things, those autonomic responses of being able to just breathe, because that's what your body does. You can forget to breathe.
Oh, wow.
You can forget how to
swallow.
chew. Yep. And so you could choke on food. You can forget that you can't stand up as quickly as you used to. You can fall and break a hip. So the term is not that you've passed away from Alzheimer's disease, but you've passed away from complications associated with Alzheimer's disease. So like April said, you forget how to breathe, you forget these things, and your memory and your behaviors and all these things are different, and that's what causes it to be fatal.
Gotcha. I think most people have a basic awareness of Alzheimer's. How would you compare or contrast what dementia versus or compared to Alzheimer's? Is one related to the other? Are they one and the same, and one just more progressed? Or
well, the Alzheimer's Association is really Alzheimer's and related dementias. So we do try and offer support and information and advocacy for Alzheimer's and related dementias. So really, they're related. There's different forms of dementia, like Lewy body dementia, and you can get pretty nitty-gritty into what exactly is going on, but they're very related. They don't always manifest in the same way. Some forms of dementia could be from like a traumatic event, or different things can cause it versus the way that Alzheimer's manifests. But really, they're very related.
So dementia is an umbrella term. So April was saying there are different forms of dementia, which she is correct. So when someone says that my loved one has dementia, they could have any type of dementia. So I have cancer. Do you have breast cancer, colon cancer, lung cancer? So that's kind of the difference. Now, Alzheimer's is the most common form of dementia. So, and Alzheimer's is, it is a neurodegenerative disease, so it has to deal with your brain, plaques and tangles, and we don't need to go into the science, but things basically build up and prevent your brain from functioning how it properly should. And it really affects, again, your memory, your thinking, and your behavior. But so much so that it causes a disruption in your daily life. You become incontinent, you can't get up as quickly, that sort of thing. So it's not just, hey, I lost my keys, but it's I lost my keys and I found them 2 days later in the freezer or the junk drawer or some completely random place where they shouldn't be. Still Alice was a movie that came out this spring that Julianne Moore starred in, and there's a scene in there where she lost her phone, and I believe she found her phone either in the trash compactor or the dishwasher, but she couldn't find it, and that phone was her life source, because I think what you'll find people in the earlier stages of the disease use coping mechanisms, planners, and that phone she used to help have reminders and so forth. But anyway, there was a scene where she was just incredibly distraught and she couldn't figure out where it was, but it was in the most random place where, when you lose your keys or your phone, it's not going in the dishwasher, it's just somewhere that it's on a table that you normally don't put things on. So it's not just memory loss. It's something that disrupts your daily life. And when that starts happening, then you know that you've got those issues. So I think again, people think, oh, hey, I'm forgetful, I might have Alzheimer's. Well, does it really affect you that much? Does it affect
Right.
your daily life in that capacity? If it doesn't, then no, you're either forgetful.
To not at all make light of this, but one time in college, I did finally find the remote control in the refrigerator.
Yeah, but how many beers did you have before?
Let's move on.
Yes.
No. What are some of the, so I don't know how to phrase this exactly, but so I work with a couple of people who've been affected by it, one who is currently dealing with it. If I come to you, what would you tell me if that was me and I found out that my mother-in-law, my father, whoever it was, just got diagnosed with early onset Alzheimer's? What do you say to me?
Mm-hmm. Well, we definitely want to get you in touch with someone at the association to help get you information, because that's one of the biggest things that, if you get an actual Alzheimer's diagnosis, which in this day and age, doctors are still somewhat hesitant to give people at times.
And why is that?
Because there's no treatment and no cure.
Okay.
And it is pretty life-shattering. So it's a real hard diagnosis to give people.
Mm-hmm.
And they don't know what good that diagnosis really does. Doctors don't get a lot of training on dementias in college. It's like 30 minutes of their whole med school career is based on this. So as you can imagine, they're very ill-equipped to really give you, they don't want to just lay this on you and be like, all right, I'm out.
Exactly.
But they don't really have the training to know what you should do, and that's really direct them to us so that we can help you, because you want to have a plan and you want to know what that's going to mean for you, and it manifests differently for everyone. So really a support group has got to be part of that plan, because it's going to affect you faster, slower, up, down, left, right, just differently than it's going to affect everybody else, because it's all about how your brain works. So having that diagnosis is really important, but then having a place to come to actually get information about it, because your doctor just doesn't typically really have a good amount of information
Other
for
than
it.
a pamphlet or a link or a,
Right. Yeah, or time to really walk through it. So we want to really be able to hold your hand and say, this is what's going on, and this is, what you can maybe expect. And
so what's that look like when I come to you? I'm referred to you by a physician or whatever, and I get in touch with the association. How's the process go?
Well, there's a few different ways that can happen. Certainly, one of the primary resources we utilize is our helpline. So it's a 1-800 24/7 helpline, because let's be honest, you're probably going to have an issue in the evening, the wee hours of the morning, not between 8 and 5 Monday through Friday.
Absolutely.
So you can constantly contact the helpline, but I know, and I think Iowans like each other, so we like to kind of talk and have a face-to-face conversation with someone like what we're having today. So you can contact our office and then meet with some of our programming staff there and just say, we call them care consultations, and so you're just really saying, this is what's going on in my life right now, and they just sort of listen to you and provide you with the resources. But April mentioned it before, one of the resources that we do recommend, and we would share this with anybody who came to us, would be to attend a support group. I am a fiercely independent individual, but I have learned through other instances that wow, just having a friend or someone to lean on, a support group, someone to talk to and say, hey, I have this going on, have you had this going on? And just having a conversation with people who understand what's going on is so extremely helpful, I think, for your for just the internal workings of yourself, just to feel
well, the validation of, okay, so this does happen.
Right.
And it's not that abnormal.
Yeah.
Right.
So, it's, when we talk about a plan, every plan is different, but it's not, you're going to do this, and now we're going to do this, and now we're going to do that. But really, it's just being that support system for someone who is going through the disease. And, we do provide a lot of those resources, like I said, the helpline, but some of the other things that we provide would be to connect individuals with some of the research trials. And we actually do, because we are in Iowa City, We are very lucky to have the University of Iowa here in our backyard. And there are several research programs, trials, and I couldn't name them all. Some
That's
are for
okay.
caregivers, and some you have to be on certain meds or not on other meds and so forth. But anybody who wants to participate in some of those preventative research trials can contact our local office, and we will put them in touch. So yeah, so I mean, there's a lot of things that we can do for you.
Yeah.
So I know you've said that there's no cure. Is there any type of prevention? Have they figured out any type of cause for this?
Nope.
No.
Not
I
really,
mean, that's
no.
my short answer.
The best thing taking good care of yourself, being healthy to start with, is the best thing that they think. So exercise,
Right.
Be as healthy as you can be, because that helps keep your brain strong.
Sure.
And there is a connection between your vascular system and your brain. So to be heart healthy, there hasn't been anything that's proven, yes, hey, if I'm heart healthy, I won't get Alzheimer's disease. But the likelihood that you won't is better the healthier you are. So yeah, definitely, those sorts of things. But some of the symptoms start to show themselves anywhere from 10 years down the road, but it's not to the point where people are wondering what's happening to me or what's happening to my loved one. So with some of these research trials that are going on, we are trying to identify some that have, it's the early onset. We do believe if you have the diagnosis before the age of 65, the likelihood of it being some sort of familial type disease is higher. And so we try to identify some of those instances and see if we can get people involved in some research trials to try to figure out what it is that causes it. Because that's the problem, is we don't know for sure what causes it. And until we know, then we have really no way of identifying a cure. But some of the things that Rachel said before, you can still live a healthy life, which could potentially prevent some of that, and try to work your brain, try to do crossword puzzles, those sorts of things, and sort of keep your mind fresh. They can't hurt.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess it's like a fire. If you can't find the source, you can't put it out.
Right.
It does seem amazing that in this day and age, there's so little that we know about it. Not to test you too much, but how long have we known about Alzheimer's?
Well, people have known that when you get old, you can tend to have dementia for centuries, right? I mean, of course, centuries ago, we weren't living as long as we do now. So that plays into it a little bit, but it actually being a medical diagnosis that you could, a doctor could put on your chart is much more recent than you would think. I think it was just in the late 80s, early 90s.
Oh,
when
really?
That came
Well,
out.
the Alzheimer's Association was founded in 1980. And then our chapter here in Iowa City in 89. So I would say probably around, I think it was maybe 83, 84 in that time frame. So when you think about it, again, things like cancer and heart disease, I mean, I think the Cancer Association is celebrating their 100th anniversary. So it's, they've had a lot of time to raise awareness, to raise funds. We're really, in the grand scheme of things, babies, toddlers when it comes to the disease itself, how much we know about it. And I think April mentioned a key point in that in recent years, we have started to live a little bit longer. So I think as the population ages, you'll see it a little bit more. And so I think it was kind of a perfect storm where, we all lived a little bit longer. Okay, what's going on? There's this diagnosis. Okay, let's start raising awareness. So I mean, I hope in our lifetime and our children's lifetime that we'll be to a point where we have some preventative measures or at least ways to slow the disease down. So yeah, but really it isn't anything that we've been talking about for years and years and years. It's
relatively young,
my husband's grandmother, who I didn't know, but probably in I think the early 70s, late 60s, was doing weird things like putting pennies in when she was baking cakes, maybe using a bunch of salt instead of sugar. Those are potential signs of Alzheimer's disease. The more stories he relates to me, I'm like, I really feel like she had Alzheimer's disease. They didn't have a diagnosis for it then.
Right.
They didn't know what to do. They just kind of thought, oh, it's crazy old grandma.
Yeah.
So yeah, we really have a long way to go as far as just educating everybody in the community, which is why, which is why we're here and we do all the things that we do, is just to continue to talk about the disease and how important, how it affects everybody and how important it is to raise awareness and funds.
That leads into my next question, which is kind of two parts. But for one, how are you funded? And for two, what can I do? What can the people who are watching today, what can they do to get involved? Other than money, of course, always money helps, all of it, but
yeah.
Speak to that.
Sure. Well, so as far as our funding, I mean, we're certainly funded by estate gifts, memorial gifts when someone passes away, but our primary funding source is through our special events. So the Walk to End Alzheimer's that April, see, I just gave her a new name, then April, talked about earlier. I mean, that really is how our programs are funded, is through that. And then in East Central Iowa, we do have 19 counties that we support. So not only do we have these events in Iowa City, but we have them in Cedar Rapids and Waterloo and some of the other areas. But I can let April speak to the walk and how people can get involved, because that's kind of her.
Yeah, let's promote that and let's talk about that.
So as I mentioned before, Sunday, September 21st.
Actually, it's September 20th.
September 20th. It was the 21st last year, I think. Darn it. So Sunday, September 20th.
Show up on the 19th and you won't miss it.
Yeah.
Just stay.
Just stay.
Yep.
Just stay.
But the best way to get involved is to go to our website, and you can sign up on the website.
What is the website?
It's
www.alz.org.
Yeah.
They'll show it on
I was going to say it's on the screen.
Too.
It's on the screen. And honestly, you'll have to, it's not very user-friendly to get specifically to Iowa City, but if you just go alz.org/walk and then type in Iowa City or your zip code, it'll bring you right here to this.
Otherwise, if you're looking, it has like a map and you can kind of narrow down, your state and what city you're looking for. And you can join a team that's existing. Team Holden's a great one to be on. Or you can start your own team or just be an individual walker. There's no fee to sign up to be part of the walk. Really, what we're looking for is bodies to help us raise awareness. And then any fundraising you do, obviously through the page, you can solicit donations from, people wanting to do like a credit card donation to you, or do fundraisers. Lemonade stands and bake sales are not out of the question. And once you get signed up, there's a bunch of information you'll get on how to get donations in and that kind of thing, or turn them in day of walk.
I know that our agency participates, and also what they do is they do like Jeans Day for the staff if you raise so much money, and so it's something that you can involve your company with. You can, as individuals.
If your company or organization is interested in doing something like that, we'd love to help you get some materials out and maybe some stickers. I wore jeans for walk day or whatever. We've got some different things that we can help you with as an organization, so we'd love for you to contact us for that. And then we're also trying to paint the town purple here.
I see
July
that.
31st.
I should have worn purple today.
Yeah.
Well,
feel a lot of place.
Just say that blue is purple and we're good.
Maybe they can do something with the graphics.
So Paint the Town Purple Day is July 31st. So we're trying to get, as many businesses, individuals, organizations involved in really trying to have a purple presence that day to just help raise awareness. And then obviously the walk is, our biggest single event of the year, but we'll be around the community between now and then plenty. There's also every Friday in June, Buffalo Wild Wings in Coralville is helping us to raise funds. So if you want to get your BW3 on,
there you go.
On out, and a portion of the proceeds every Friday in June is going to us.
Wonderful. I wish we had more time. Like I said, a half hour flies by, especially with a topic this important and with this much information, or lack of information, however you want to say it. But April, Angelica, it's been an absolute pleasure talking to you, learning more about the organization, and hopefully some people step up, get involved, and we'll go from there.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you for so much for joining. My name is Brian McConnell, and I've been your host of Live and Local. Please tune in every Wednesday at 8 p.m. for the latest episode of Live and Local on your neighborhood network, PATV Channel 18. Thank you very much.